Bryan Ray, America's Rugby News. Major League Rugby 2023 preview, the Houston SaberCats. Well, after 4 long years of waiting, Houston fans finally got a winning season out of the Cats. You know, a team to really cheer for, to match their outstanding facilities that they have there. Off to the playoffs for the first time. Now, they didn't quite take that next step. They kind of ran out of gas, it looked like, at the end, and were beaten by that in-form Seattle side, peaking at just the right time. But hey, it was still a huge step for the franchise, and you know, they brought in Heineke Meyer as their director of rugby, Pote Human as their head coach. They obviously had a huge influence, brought a lot of South African players with them, and certainly they worked out well last year. Now this year, heading in, you know, a few new faces, not necessarily South Africans, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, we're going to go back to this past season, their roster last year, and just take away the players who aren't there anymore. So we'll start in the front row. Nicolas Solvera, their Argentine loosehead, unfortunately got injured kind of just about halfway through last season. And then he's now off in France playing in the Pro D2. He signed for, I think it was Montauban he signed for. So he's gone. Diego Fortuny, their outstanding Argentine hooker, 3 years of service in Houston. He was excellent, but he's now with the American Raptors, going to play Super Rugby Americas. Patrick Donovan, you know, with their academy side last year, he played you know, a few games over the past couple years, and he actually went on loan to Dallas for a little bit last year as well. But I expected him to be back, kind of with either the academy side or with the senior, really with the senior side when you look at their roster now. But it doesn't look like he is, so we're going to take him off for now. Juan Pablo Zeiss, their other Argentine tight head, he went and signed with the Dallas Jack. Well, he's traded along with Marcos Moroni, their wing fullback, another Argentine. So those two guys have gone to Dallas, staying in Texas at least. So, you know, they're close. Aaron Mitchell, tight head prop, looks like he's decided to retire. Not entirely sure why. He's certainly not old. So, you know, maybe he can be convinced to come back. I'm not sure, but he is not with the team this year. Second row, almost all intact. One departure, Will Crawford. He has gone to the American Raptors as well, following Diego Fortuny. Well, it's probably Fortuny following Crawford, but take your pick. Crawford actually came up through their academy program and did pretty well last season. So, you know, a shame to see him gone, but, you know, this is professional sports. They do that. Jacob Zuidenhout, their starting number 8 at the beginning of the season. I believe it was a knee injury halfway through, and he was out. So Milan El Jabouri came in and filled that number 8 role. Willie Brits played, you know, 6-7 games last season. The veteran South African had quite a few injuries. You know, he was in, he was injured, he was back in and then injured again, but he's now gone to a contract back in Japan. He was there before. The rest of those guys in the back are still back. So if you look at that, pretty strong core of returning forwards. In the backs, only one scrum half departing. That's Zach Short. Didn't play a lot last year. Went on loan to the Free Jacks for a little bit. Not sure where he is. US eligible though. Maybe he's gone back to New Zealand where he was kind of growing up. Fly halves are still there. Matai Leuta. Now this is interesting. He was in, you know, Houston right through till Christmas anyways. I'm not really sure where he is. I expected him to be in the squad. Maybe he's injured or something. I haven't seen any retirement announcements. You know, I thought that he would have been a guy they wanted to retain, but for whatever reason, he's not with the side. Started at inside center, ended up playing a bit of wing once Lawrence van der Skyff got fit and came in there. But Leuta not in the squad this season. Marcel Muller, another one of kind of a mystery. He was training with actually the Rugby HDX side and playing with them during the off-season, and he's just suddenly kind of disappeared. So not sure if he's just kind of off the roster for now and will join later. Don't know about that. But Zuidenhout as well, the number 8, was actually rehabbing in Texas. So a chance that he could come back later in the season, we're not sure. And just one more departure over here. That's Maka Unufe. He was going by Kisi last year. So Kisi, Maka, I'm not really sure what he's going by at the moment, but Unife back with the USA Sevens program full-time, so he has departed. So there you go. Not a lot of leavers when you look at it. The core of the squad, most of the starters are all returning, so you know, looking good as far as continuity goes for the SaberCats heading into 2023. So now let's look at these reinforcements who have come in this season. Okay, new faces for Houston in 2023. You know, one thing I really liked about their recruitment last year heading into 2022 was most of these guys that they brought in for South Africa were on the young side of their career. You look at Kotzer, Meaden, even Vanderskyte. These are not over the hill kind of guys. Even Dylan Smith, experienced, but he's not one of these, you know, mid-30s. It was really only, you know, maybe Willie Brits on that kind of, you know, end of the scale. But most of them really just kind of moving up in their careers. And I think that was a real positive move by Houston. And that, you know, recruitment policy has been continued this year. Some more young guys coming in. So let's see who we've got. We're going to start in the front row. Now, one thing we're just going to do here is we're going to move Frickie de Beer, who was playing mostly loose head last year, over to tight head prop. He can play both sides, probably best at loose head, but he does play on both sides. And you'll see with the recruitment anyways that they do need a little more depth at tight head. So that's why we're slotting him over there right now. So Alec McDonnell returning. He stepped into the starting #1 jersey in the second half of last season and did an excellent job formerly with New York. So he is returning. Joining him, Rob Cobb is a New Zealand under-20 select and was playing with Waikato in the NPC. Slot him in right there. Good handy pickup. Another young guy. So is Fatongia Paea, who is playing in the NPC, starting with North Harbour. Before that, I think he was with Auckland's development side. Add him in there as well. Not necessarily the order that we'll put them in the Matchday 23, but again, we'll get to that. And Will Vakalahi, this newest addition to the front row, formerly of Old Glory DC. Not entirely sure why he's left there. A youngster, though, can play both sides, but he's been playing more loose head recently. Now he's actually, watch this, so we've got Dean Muir back, the captain. We've got Axel Zapata, this Argentine, returning. But there's only 2 hookers at the moment. So the word on the street is that Rob Iramescu, who was with Old Glory last season, was meant to come to Houston, but then he decided he wanted to play for Romania, which makes him an import under World Rugby eligibility rules, which is what MLR goes by. So they couldn't really use Iramescu anymore because they wanted a domestic hooker. So they don't really have that third. That's a big hole for them at the moment that hasn't been filled, and it looks like they're going to take a look at Will Vakalahi as kind of an emergency third stringer to start. Now they do have Mike Brown, who played with Seattle last season. He's heading up coaching Rugby HTX, their academy side, so maybe they could use him in an emergency if they need it. Again, that's why I said Patrick Donovan thought he might be back, but they've got a hole there that they need to fill. Okay, a tight head prop, Pono Davis returning, should get more playing time. He was really taking a step forward last season, looked good at parts certainly. And a new recruit, I love this guy, Morgan Mitchell, formerly of the Toronto Arrows. He'd gone to Japan after that, and then he went back to New Zealand with Southland last season. So a really fun, rambunctious player. I think that's a great pickup for them. So front row, aside from looking pretty good, it's just this gap here at hooker that definitely concerns me, and I know they're fully aware of that right now. So hopefully they're out scouting somebody trying to get a new recruit. Second row, Siosi Mahoney is returning. Marno Redlingheis returning. Vinand Grassman, who also plays a blindside flanker, he's also returning. And an impressive new recruit this year, Nathan Den Hoot, coming in from the LA Giltinis. We'll stick him there. Again, I think he's probably going to be more of a starter, though, once we get to our 23, but great pickup for them. Kenny Nasugenge, of course, he can play in the second row as well, can play #8. Really versatile forward. He played at toured with the Eagles, actually. Well, the Falcons, technically, to South Africa, and then was training with the Eagles squad for the repechage, but didn't actually win a cap for the Eagles yet. So, but he has played for the Falcons now. Emmanuel Albert, their top draft pick from a couple of years back, a 2021 draft. He spent the offseason, well, he actually only played, I think, 1 game with HTX, but he got man of the match, I believe, in that one. So looking for bigger things from him. Top talent. Looked pretty good in his rookie season last year. Maylon El Jabouri returning. We'll slide him up here at #8. And we're going to slide Gideon Van Vyk over here. He played mostly flanker last season, this young South African, but more, he prefers #8. I think we'll see him a little bit more at that position this season. Really high on this guy. He's 21 years old. I expect him to go back to South Africa one of these days and play with one of their bigger sides. Danny Barrett, of course, returning to 15s last season from the 7th Circuit. Looked great. It looks like he's going to be the vice captain this season. He was captaining for half of their game against the New England Free Jacks in the preseason, and Dean Muir, of course, their regular skipper. And another great addition to this back row, again, not necessarily second choice here, but Hanko Hermesais coming in from the Guillotine. He's playing for another MLR side. Let's see, he started with Austin, he was with Glendale, went to New York and LA, and now with Houston, all the way around the world, it seems, for Hanko. But you can't question the guy's class. He's a brilliant player. At his best, he is absolutely destructive. So looking forward to see him certainly in a Houston shirt. And he played quite a bit of number 8 last season, so we could see him there as well. Scrum half, we got Dylan Smith, their starter, returning. Nick Boyer, thought he might be leaving, but turns out he's sticking around. Also an option on the wing, but they got another scrum half coming in as well, pretty handy. Carlo Denishan, who was the first choice player for Dallas last season. That's handy, interesting. They got the two guys behind Smith. Carlo probably a little bit closer in style to Smith. Well, a lot closer, because there's not too many 6'3" scrum halves around, is there? So Nick just gives you a different look than what Carlo would. But that's nice depth they've got at number 9. Davey Kotzer returning at number 10. Kean Meaden returning at number 10. And also we're going to slide up to 10. Plays both 10 and 15. Robbie Povey, Canadian international, probably more at home as a 10, but certainly didn't let them down at 15 last year, memorably kicking those points against Seattle that got Houston into the playoffs for the first time. Lourdes van der Skyff, outstanding once he recovered from his knee injury last year. He's their starting number 12. He looked excellent. 13 was Christian Dyer, also brilliant, making the switch. He was training with the Eagle Sevens program. He was vice captain last year, their kind of backs leader, and I thought he was excellent for Houston, and looked good for the Eagles, where he plays wing. Now, we could see a little bit of him on the wing this year, and that's because they've picked up Dom Aquina from Austin. He is just an electric runner. He just hasn't really had... he was playing flanker for a bit. He'd played center back in college rugby, then switched to forward, playing flanker, switched back to the midfield last year. Center is really where we get the best of his attacking ability. So I think Houston is really eyeing him as a potential starter. And then a recent addition, another Old Glory DC exports, Simi Moala, big Tongan. They needed another body in that midfield with no Leuta, and Moala fills that nicely. He was playing in the wing last year, not a winger. Harry Labuschagne, their big 6'5" South African, returning on the wing. We'll throw, Zach Pangelini, and we'll just slide him over there as kind of a domestic option. We got Trace Ballstad, kind of a jack of all trades. He can play 9, 10, 15, filled in on the wing, but he's really kind of more in that spine kind of position. So he's handy to have. Pangelini, sometimes referred to as a Swiss Army knife. Again, another guy who can fill in everywhere. At this stage in his career, wing, fullback, really where he's going to play. Jack Hidalgo returning, and 2 newcomers to the outside backs. Drew Wild. This guy is going to be something to watch. Not the biggest fullback, but he is quick. Go check out some of his highlights on YouTube. Very rapid, coming in from Manawatu in New Zealand. And Veroniki Tikoi Solomone, another pacey guy, Fijian winger. He was playing with Taranaki in New Zealand. Both Wild and Tikoi Solomone kind of on the brink of Super Rugby, just edging close. All these recruits really that they've got from the Southern Hemisphere, from New Zealand, coming in from the NPC, just very close to Super Rugby selection. So again, that signing policy that they have, bringing guys who are moving up in their careers, I think is a good one for Houston. So there you go. Overall, pretty good looking squad. They've got a couple other academy guys they can call up if they need one. Marna Spangenberg, for instance, a loose forward who is a captain of Lindenwood. He's not US eligible yet, so that's probably why he hasn't been elevated to the senior squad yet, but handy guy to have if they need him. And definitely they need another hooker here. That would really help. Otherwise, they look pretty put together at the moment. So there's our squad. Now we're going to look at our match day 23. Okay, Houston's match day 23. Of course, the first thing we have to know, how many imports are they allowed in their match day squad? Well, Houston's number is 11. Sounds pretty good, except that Houston does have a lot of imports. I will say that about their squad. So let's try, and I think we'll actually see a fair bit of rotation from Houston this season. But let's try and fill in the ones that we know, for sure. Obviously we'll start with the captain, Dean Muir, at hooker. Now, recall, they only have 2 senior hookers. So Axel Zapata is going to be our reserve hooker, and that means we can only fit 10 imports now in the starting lineup because Zapata is also an import. And he has to be in our match day 23 at the moment. Okay, tight head prop definitely going to be Morgan Mitchell, so we'll put him in there. Loose head, we've got some competition here. We've got Alec McDonnell returning from last season, the incumbent starter, but you'd probably think that one of Cobb or Paella coming in from New Zealand is probably going to be kind of first choice because not a lot of point in bringing these guys in if they're not going to be at least competing for that first slot. But they're both imports, and you can't put the other one on the bench. So we're going to put Cobb and Paella there, bracketed in them as Lou said. One of them will be starting, and the other one not in the 23. We'll put Alec McDonnell right there. Again, he could end up being the starter as he was in the preseason game just this past weekend. Pano Davis, he's our next tight head guy, so we're going to throw him in there at number 18. Second row, I think Siausi Mahoney, pretty obviously, is going to be one of them. And then the other one, we've got, competition there, but I think Nathan Den Hoot is probably going to get the nod in the end. In his main competition, you'd have to say probably going to be Marno Redling Ice, so we'll put him there as well. So nice to have that rotation ability there, keep them fresh. Back row, I mean, we've got a lot of options here, but we'll start with Danny Barrett at number 7 because we're pretty sure that that's where he's going to play. Now you got Henko. You got to play him somewhere, right? Do you play him at 6? Do you play him at 8? Well, on the weekend he was playing 8, so we're going to throw Henko in there at number 8. And our blindside flanker, well, I mean, we've got options. Kenny Nasugenge, you've got Milan Aljibouri. Vainan Grassman actually played there on the weekend. That caught me a little bit by surprise. Let's just wait on that and see where our import count is. We might have to reshuffle that back row in a second. Number 9, quite obviously, Dylan Smith. There you go. Davy Kutzer is your nailed-on number 10 starter. They do have depth. Kian Meaden and Robbie Povey as well. Your nailed-on 12, Lourdes van der Skyf. Now, 13, what are we going to do? I mean, they had Akina there at 13 last year. They had Christian Dyer. Well, let's start with putting Harry Labuschagne in here on the left wing. You have to think he'll be their starter there. Although you got Veroniki Tikoi Solomone coming in as well, another import. But let's see how the rest of our backline falls in here. Drew Wild definitely is the fullback. He looks real quality. So we're going to put Dyer in here somewhere. He's either 13 or he's 14. Let's check our import count. So we're only allowed 10 in the starting lineup because of Zapata. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've only got room for one more import. If we put Tikoi Solomone here at 14, that means we'll put Dyer here at 13. And we've got to put a domestic guy, so probably Aljibouri here at 6. Or you could switch them, put Henko at 6 and put Aljibouri at 8. Either way, you'd have this all Eagles loose forward trio. Pretty handy, eh? So looking at that, pretty good lineup, but I think maybe they'll try something a little different to try and maybe get another of their imports in, probably in the back row. So the other option, if you take Tikoi Solomone out and maybe put him here bracketed with Harry, the two of them kind of competing as the import winger, then you move Dyer to the wing, you get Akina here. Now we can fit in one more import either on the bench or in the lineup. You have to think it'd be in the lineup, so we'll take Aljibouri out here. We'll slide him over to the bench, and we'll stick in, it's either Grassman or Van Wyk. Grassman gives you, he also plays lock, gives you a bit of more of a line out, a presence. Van Wyk, you would play at number 8 and move Henko to the flank, I would think. Van Wyk can play in the flank, so take your pick. One of those two, but he would be more, if you're looking for more, a little bit more attacking oomph, I guess. He's very quick for a loose forward, so if you're looking to attack more, if you're looking to play more of a tight game, which Houston certainly likes to do, they like like the maul a lot, so Grassman, the bigger man, better in the line out. That if you're looking more of the set piece, Grassman might be your selection. Kenny Nasugenge, you have to throw him here on the bench, can play lock, blindside, number 8. Now, we've got our 3 back slots here, sort of. But the thing with Houston is they love the 6-2 bench. They like to pick that extra forward to really freshen up their pack in the second half, and I think we'll see that a lot this year. So that probably means that Emmanuel Albert is coming in here. So actually we'll slide El Jabbouri down because he's pure loose forward. Albert is kind of like Nasugenge, where he can play lock, he can play blindside flanker as well. I think he's more suited to the back row personally, probably a 6 long term, but he can fill in there. But this gives you a nice spread of options here along those 3 to cover. You could put them both in at lock like they did a fair bit last season, or you could bring Kenny in at lock, Albert in on the blind side, and El Jabbouri at number 8 kind of thing, or flanker. El Jabbouri can cover across the back row. So you need a couple of replacements here. Now the obvious one for scrum half then would be Nick Boyer, because he can cover scrum half and wing. Now, I mean, you might say, well, we need a center here, but you don't really need a center because Dyer can slot back in there, and Boyer could come in on the wing. I think it would be Robbie Povey who is the natural guy to come in there. He's a 10-15, so that pretty much covers all your bases there with that kind of a selection, a matchday 23. I think that's not far off what we'll see a lot of the time. Again, we've got these nice options in the back row. You know, you could start Kenny Nasugenge there on the blindside flank if you want. I've always liked him as a number 8 personally, but you know, pretty good depth if you look at everything here. The one, again, the concerning thing, they don't have a third hooker. If they had another hooker, a domestic one, then you can take you know, Zapata off and rotate him in here with Muir, and that would give you another option to play. You know, maybe Tikoi Solomone here in the wing, move Akina to the bench as like an impact sub. I mean, so if we did a 5-3, let's just try that for a minute here. So we'll take out Albert, we'll move El Jabbouri up, Boyer up, we'll move Povey up, we'll move Akina here. Well, I mean, we'd have to probably look at Zach Pangilinan maybe. Well, no, we've got him. I think that pretty much covers. We put Dyer there, but we can't get Tikoi Solomone in because of this situation. So we probably have to put El Jabbouri there at 6 and put Albert there. So, but I think I'm fairly convinced that they're going to go mostly 6-2 this season. So I'm just going to put everybody back to where they were. You know, we could see Akina on the wing even, and Dyer at 13 if that doesn't work out. But, you know, Dyer is just used to playing on the wing with the Eagles. So I think, you know, it kind of looks like we're going to see it that way. That's how they lined up in the preseason game. So that certainly is something that they're toying with anyways. And then, you know, other prop options. You know, you've got Fricky De Beer, you've got Will Vakalahi. If you started McDonnell and you put one of them on the bench, maybe that gives you the ability to play Tikoi Solomone here on the wing. So, yeah, they got good depth pretty much across the board. Again, you've got Carlo Donation here. Again, it's a matter of style. I think if Smith wasn't starting, as we saw on the weekend, they actually had Carlo Donation starting because Carlo's closer in style. He's just, you know, he's got good box kicks, more of a distribute first kind of scrum half, whereas Nick Boyer really, with his size, he likes to challenge on the fringes and tie up those loose forwards, right? So, you know, just a choice of which style they want. I think Boyer is better suited to the bench to come in and make an impact than Carlo. Carlo probably more likely to get the start when Smith isn't there. So overall, again, hooker is that thing I'd be a little bit concerned about. Otherwise, this looks like a very, very tough side. They won't be easy outs again. Well-rounded group. Do they have what it takes to get up to, you know, take that next step, get a playoff win? You know, I think they can certainly get to that conference final. They're in the mix. So I'm putting them in there with San Diego and Seattle and Utah. Those 4 teams, I think, are going to be really pushing for those 3 playoff spots. It'll be interesting to see which one misses out. Whichever one of those misses out this season is going to be a very strong team. One of the stronger teams to have missed out on the postseason that we've seen in MLR. You really love to see that competition for spots. So there you go. Houston SaberCats, Major League Rugby 2023. Let me know what you think.